Hello everyone and welcome back. In this video, we will be studying Bitcoin as layer 1 of the Internet of Value. Now, Bitcoin was created in 2008 amidst the global economic recession by Satoshi Nakamoto, who referred to it as a new electronic cash system that is fully peer-to-peer with no trusted third party. Now, Nakamoto introduced Bitcoin on October 31st, 2008 to a cryptography mailing list by publishing the white paper called Bitcoin, a Peer-to-Peer Electronic Cash System, and then released as open source software in 2009. The system is peer-to-peer and transactions take place between users directly without an intermediary. Now, since the system works without a central repository or single administrator, Bitcoin is called the first decentralized digital currency. Bitcoin is also the largest of its kind in terms of total market value. Bitcoin is created, distributed, traded, and stored with the use of decentralized ledger system known as a blockchain. A distributed ledger that, as its name indicates, is stored in a chain of digital blocks that allow information to be recorded and distributed, but not edited. Every block contains a hash of the previous block, and this has the effect of creating a chain of blocks from the genesis block to the latest block. Each block is guaranteed to come after the previous block chronologically because the previous block's hash would otherwise not be known. Each block is also computationally impractical to modify once it has been in the chain for a while, because every block after it would also have to be regenerated. Now let me explain why it's a decentralized ledger. Thousands of computers participate in the process of validation and recording of transactions by doing an amount of computational work to add a block to the chain. We could say that Bitcoin was the first use case of blockchain technology. Blockchain technology, together with technologies such as proof of work, Merkle trees, consensus mechanism, and public key cryptography enabled Bitcoin to become the most secure, decentralized, censorship-resistant, immutable, transparent, open, and global system in the world for the transfer of money between peers. The first global monetary system controlled by the people. A Bitcoin transaction is composed of a few key elements. 1, inputs or origins, which are the public Bitcoin addresses of the origin wallets. 2, the amount of Bitcoin to be sent to the destinations. And 3, the outputs or destinations, which are the public Bitcoin addresses of the destination wallets. Now, a transaction is the basic operation in the Bitcoin ecosystem. Now, a Bitcoin transaction moves Bitcoins between one or more inputs and outputs. Each input is a transaction output associated with an address supplying Bitcoins. Now, each output is an address receiving Bitcoins along with the amount of Bitcoins going to that address. So how does it work? Now that we have the main components of a Bitcoin transaction, let's see how the system works at a high level. Step 1, transaction, creation, and sign. Here, anyone can create a transaction with only 3 components: an input, an amount, and an output. For example, let's say that Bob and Alice are exchanging Bitcoin for dollars. As Bob sends the Bitcoin to Alice, Alice needs to send her public Bitcoin address, and Bob creates the transaction and signs it with his private key. Step 2, broadcasting. Once the transaction is created, it needs to be sent to the system. Hence, the transaction is sent to the closest node on the Bitcoin network. Note that the transaction doesn't need to be sent right after the creation of the transaction. It could be sent a long time after the creation, but you just need to make sure that you'll still have the Bitcoin specified by the endpoint when you decide to send it. Step 3, propagation and verification. Once the transaction arrives to the closest node, then that transaction is propagated into the network and verified by each node it visits. After it successfully passes verification, it goes and sits in the mempool, which is short for memory pool, of each node and patiently waits until a miner picks it up to include it in the next block. So the mempool is basically the node's holding area for all the pending transactions. And step 4, validation. Once the transaction is on the mempool, then the miners select a group of transactions from the mempool to include in the next block. Who are the miners? The miners are the ones that build blocks with valid transactions and compete to get their next block selected by solving a very difficult computational puzzle called proof of work. The one who solves the puzzle first receives newly issued bitcoins as compensation. Then, by Nakamoto consensus algorithm, the network agrees that the first valid block that solves the puzzle will be appended to the blockchain, and consequently, the network accepts the transaction included in it. While Bitcoin, as we've been learning, provided a secure, decentralized, censorship-resistant, immutable, transparent, open, and global system for the transfer of money between peers, it does have certain limitations. For example, the settlement time for transactions is too long to enable mass adoption of the technology as a payment mechanism. There are many more concepts to learn about Bitcoin in order to understand how it works, but this is the first introduction that we wanted to provide you for now. In the following video, we will be studying RSK as layer 2 of the Internet of Value that expands Bitcoin's ecosystem functionality by providing smart contracts and greater scalability. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.